Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of my memoir. This episode is about lights, um, artificial lights, light bulbs, lasers, these sorts of things. Uh, and sorry, there's no visuals today. It's technical issues, um, which is a bit disappointing for me because really wanted to show you. It's cold out. I'm wearing my Justin Bieber World Tour hoodie that I really wanted to show you guys, but you'll just have to picture it. It's red. Um, lights. This begins with my dad uh, and a grade 7, 8, I can't remember, science fair competition, junior high school. And my project it was a study of light bulbs, light sources, comparative study of their different spectral profiles, color temperatures, um, compared to sunlight. And Dad did most of the work on this project. I can't remember where the idea came from. I think through conversation with him. I think I was interested in light, and I didn't. So I can't quite remember how the idea developed. But he was at the heart of it, and he just ran with it as he, always does. Goes with full bore intensity, and I think that's where I got it from, in part from him. And Mom has a different kind of intensity. That's a different kind of strength that she's also passed on to me. But anyway, so this project was it was the usual thing, right? That kids do. There's a kind of board, the sort of display on cardboard with your project description and the results and whatnot. And this was beautiful. And again, I think Dad even put it all together, the display part as well, with printed graphs showing the different comparative spectral profiles of different kinds of, the range of commercial fluorescent lights, the soft white, the warm lights, and all those names I'm forgetting. Incandescence. We tested, I think, some kinds of industrial lights, like maybe sodium lamps, different arc lamps. I can't remember what they all were. And then, of course, sunlight. And it was cool. It was amazing. It was amazing. I was super into science and physics, and engineering was interesting to me. And here were the secrets of the universe. And what was cool about that project is it was revealing the secrets of the universe, like in an object that I never thought about, those banal everyday object of the light bulb. And I thought it was brilliant. I thought, oh, this is going to win for sure. And it got a second prize, and I was so disappointed. But another thing happened with that, which is that oh, and I should, before I go on, I should also say, part of just my dad's commitment to this kind of thing, he took me to a manufacturer of fluorescent light bulbs, and I think they gave us some samples of the different kinds of bulbs they made. Um, and so going there, I have only very faint memories of what that experience was, but I remember going to a place, and um, and then, of course, all of the testing. It was a spectral analysis, so the graphs and all of that. And I don't remember what gear was used, but Dad, of course, had all the right gear for it. And it was so interesting because, first of all, I'd never really thought about the idea of color temperature, um, different kinds of light bulbs having different color temperatures. And because the human eye sort of doesn't, it kind of hides these things. And so that insight was really important. It turned out to be really important for my life down the road because, certainly when I got into photography, color photography, but also working with professionals um, in the camera stores and doing things like selling uh, uh, monitors which were designed for accurately representing colors. And that's a whole thing. It takes a lot of work to create and sort of um, whatever, configure a monitor in such a way that it will show a kind of accurate color representation. And there are all kinds of color, other considerations, the kind of lighting in the room and all that sort of stuff. So I had to think about that stuff and how and its implications for industry and film, television, and of course photography. And and it's something that I constantly deal with in my photography, like right now. And even now it's all done with white balance with video, consumer video, and this kind of thing. But those are, so that's part of it. Is it taught me this practical stuff that happened to be relevant, down the road. But it also raised these issues of like, what is what is the nature, what is the physical nature of the universe? And this was to go back to earlier episodes. This spectral analysis was, again, this was my dad, the wizard at work, revealing the wonders of the sort of fundamentals of the universe, the secrets of the universe, light, and and using technology to reveal some factual aspect of light that is not otherwise available to us, accessible to us, right? So technology to reveal the kind of secrets of the universe, all of that was part of that whole thing. And then it taught me about uh, how you have to kind of, when you launch into a subject, you have to kind of think about its foundations first. And I learned this lesson because when you set, it's the universal experience, the science fair thing. You set up your thing, and you stand there nervously, and people come by, and they either read it or they don't, and they talk to you or they don't. And of course, I was terrified, and I hoped no one would talk to me. But they did, and I remember one guy asking me, an adult asking me, "So what is light?" And I had no response to that. I had no idea. I had never thought about it. What is light? I mean, light is light, right? We all know that. And he's like, "Well, what are you measuring here? Like, if it's a thing, if he said something like, if it's a particle, then wouldn't the room be filled up with light by now?" And so that whoever that person was, brought me into the world I mean, it was a bit early for me, but that was the opening into a world beyond, the sort of Newtonian world and into the mysterious world of the quantum and what is light, this weird thing that's both a particle and a wave, and it's not a particle and it's not a wave, and it depends on how you look at it, and all of that sort of thing. The world of Einstein. That was that moment where I was just thinking about the fact that I look like an idiot, but what that guy was doing was teaching me a really profound lesson, and about the universe, but also just about what is it to ask a question. Like, let's make sure we have the question right first before you launch into something that's too high level. So that was a really good thing. All right, beyond that, lights. Oh, and yes, the other thing I learned from that is nothing beats the sun. All of this fancy technology going to the lab or the factory that made light bulbs and all that stuff, um, is as impressive as that was. The results were so meager in those graphs that showed how narrow the kind of spectral profile was for every single human made light source as compared to the fullness of the sun, which is the point of reference. And that, of course, that's a lesson. Of course, I wouldn't have fully grasped its import, in junior high school, but it's one that stayed with me and sort of grew, and now is just profoundly shapes my perspective, which is that, of course, nature is the supreme engineer and artist, and everything we do as humans is but a meager kind of echo of all of that. So anyway, but that's me, and that's my whole, that's my hippie thing. Um, I know that my uncle Doug worked with lasers in the university for a while. I don't know the timeline. It was before this. I was much younger. I remember lasers. I think I remember going there and seeing some kind of setup with lasers, but it was never. I don't remember it being explained. I think I would have been way too young, and but I sort of learned about lasers early on, and I remember studying them. And I think we actually did test a laser. Now that I remember think about it with this light project, I'm pretty sure we did. I know I kind of read up on them, and I know that Dad showed me lasers. Gosh, I wish I could remember the specifics. That I would love to really. But anyway, I think it was not so much the seeing a laser in action that was so exciting, but it was learning about it and how it synchronized, sort of focused and synchronized light, and the way that it worked with light, which was just so weird and baffling and wondrous. And there again, I think there's an intimation. Again, I wouldn't have known it at the time, but this idea about what happens when you sort of distill nature down to its building blocks, right? Like a laser, that's the whole idea of a laser, is you're narrowing down. And again, all the science people will laugh at me as I fumble with this, but you're kind of synchronizing, rather than scattering light in all directions, you're synchronizing it, making it work synchronously, and all moving in the same direction. And important is the fact that lasers are of a specific narrow frequency, and that really distinguishes them from other kinds of light sources, which are messy and have a range of frequencies. So the idea of kind of, in that scientific way, reducing your variables to bringing it down to the sort of essence of the thing, as it were. And again, don't laugh at me. This is my humanist way of trying to understand the process. That's what was happening in sort of studying the laser. I was just thinking about, okay, this is taking me to the building blocks of how, or the basics of how light works, by boiling it down. So that was a kind of lesson that came away, whether it's misguided or not, whatever. But the exposure to those technologies at that young age was really, really shaped my understanding of the universe and of our place in it and all of that. In the long term, as a kid, I was just sort of like, whoa, that's cool, and I don't get it, but wow, that's really cool. Let's see, light beyond that. Of course, Gary, the photographer, um, brought me into the world of light, but in a different way. And there, the aim was to harness light to create something that sort of springs from your imagination. And so it was sort of a different way of thinking about light, that light, and Gary, showed me the world of photography, but he also showed me the world of television, and which is another way of just controlling light, if you want to boil it down to that. And of course, so there was a production studio where he worked, and he brought me in, and I can't remember. I did a project there. I think it was a sort of like experiential learning thing of you go to a workplace as a kid, and you learn about what they do. And I think I did that at the television studio that he was working at. And so I studied. Yeah, that's right. I remember studying lighting on the studio, and learning about how they arrange the lights for television, And it was, of course, all new to me. When you look at TV, you assume you don't really think about the lights. If the lighting is done well, the idea is you're not thinking about the lights. It sort of looks natural. And what I learned is how much work is required to create that appearance of naturalness, and how many lights and how they're arranged, and what is the primary light and what are the fill lights and what is creating point light sources, how's the background being treated, what are the color temperatures. To go back to Dad's, my project with Dad, that's massively important, of course, in television and film. Later, when I moved to Toronto, I wanted to sort of improve my video skills, so I took some courses to kind of, get up to speed, and thought a lot about and had to work a lot with in that, with sort of lighting and color temperatures. And I think as a kid too, actually, now that this comes back to me, that my brother and I, we were really young, and we took a community college course on filmmaking. And as usual, we were the only kids in the room, and I think we actually lied about our age. There was a minimum age. I can't remember what it was, 12 or something. And we weren't quite as, but again, they let us in, and we put together. It was like an episode of some cheesy '70s TV show, like the Dukes of Hazzard or a Magnum PI or something. It was like there was a kind of mystery that was solved and all that sort of thing. And so we all acted in it and shot in it. And the guy who ran the course taught us how to use the camera and set up a scene and compose it, and lighting. I guess he would have been my introduction to lighting. I remember a single light. And I remember him telling us, going on about how expensive his light was, and the first time we set it up for the scene, and it was really exciting to me, to see that, okay, this is cool. This is how it's done in Hollywood. And I think the guy, he set up the light on the stand, and he walked away and tripped over the cord, and it fell over and smashed to 1,000 pieces. This expensive light. So I think I learned something there too, that all this stuff costs money and gear is fragile, and yeah, that's a lesson that was since been taught many, many, many times. So yeah, that's funny now that I think about that. I'd forgotten about that memory. Um, and yeah, and then of course, light. My whole artist experience. Painting. I was fixated on oil painting, and it was because of what it could do. For me, it was the only medium of painting that was at all satisfying in its ability to create sort of the illusion of light effects. And um, they mostly use acrylic now. I was talking to my students. Oil paint is tough because it's toxic. You've got turpentine, there's fumes, all that stuff. Acrylic is water based. It's toxic too, but in a different way. Um, so it's there's a barrier to access with oil paint, but I needed it. And I managed to kind of set things up in my life and my practice that I could work with it. And the thing with oil paint, is that you can use what's called glazing, where you make many, many layers of very dilute paint. That's just like a transparent color, and you sort of layered and layered. It's like with high-end automotive painting, where there are hundreds of layers of polished paint, and it creates this depth. And that's the idea with oil paint. You're creating a depth where the light kind of penetrates through many layers, and that effect allows the painting to kind of glow from within and create this sort of dynamic range of the natural world, or at least an illusion of it. And varnishing the paint is important. The painting is important for that, for creating the kind of appearance of the widest possible dynamic range. It's just like choosing glossy photographs. Um, uh, and of course, painting. I mean, the way I was taught by modernists was all about color. I mean, color. You had to. I mean, and they were right. I mean, color is a sort of defining, quality of painting, and you've got to think as a colorist. Otherwise, why bother? Might as well just make drawings. And that was a lesson I had to learn. It took me a while to learn that. I'm still learning it. Um, but I remember I had talent. I was a good drafts person, and I was driven and obsessive because it's me. Um, and and so I was cocky, but I was really kind of you know kind of reminded of where I was when one of my profs took me aside and said, you've got a really acid color sense. I just remember the way he said it too. It's not just that you're kind of on the, you know, you're kind of on that side of the spectrum, but the whole effect of your work is off-putting because you haven't thought about color. And I was like, "Whoa, you're right." Of course, I was like really annoyed, and it hurt and stung. But the lesson took that he's bloody well right. I have not thought about color, and I need to start thinking about color. And because so much happens in color, it's that there's a tradition in Western thought and in academic art that sort of black and white line speaks to the mind, whereas color speaks to the body, and color, and so that gets understood in different ways. There's sort of good and bad, right? There are sort of moments when the kind of linear line intellectual thing becomes fetishized, and then people get sick of that, and then they want the color thing, and when that happens, usually there's an argument about how color speaks to the body, and like it's immediate and we feel it, and I think there's something to that. I mean, um, we live in a world of color, uh, uh, and so to take it back to Dad and this thing of this formative experience of here's a light bulb. Let me show you how light works. I mean, that's what could be more wizard like than that. Um, so I'll end it there. Thank you, Dad. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Doug. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mom. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.